Hi. Welcome back. From Episode 10 The Places We'll Go was a potpourri of different emotional scenes and feelings that kept me riveted during this entire episode. Trying to classify this episode with a singular definition is impossible, because it traveled up and down the emotional scale, from being openly vulnerable to being horrifyingly repulsive. This was truly an amazing episode. So, let's start our breakdown of what we've seen in the last episode of this season. The episode begins with Jade bursting into the Matthews home, with his manic-like personality turned up to 100, as he excitingly reveals his idea of how to get electricity for the radio antenna project. I must say he came up with a brilliantly simple, effective solution. And also I have to give him credit. He broke the restraints of a must-see to believe, logic-driven mindset, is a testament to his character and his intelligence, dealing with the facts of what is not known and making the best of it. Amazing. Next, thanks to Jade's idea of converting the electricity that comes out of the lamps into electricity that they can use to power the radio antenna project, and thanks to this new promising prospect, the townspeople seem to have been reinvigorated, which leads to a needed morale boost as they devote themselves more to the project's outcome and success. Some of the most funny and awkward moments were in between the main plot. One of those funny moments was when Jade was confronted by Julie, where she asked him to stop addressing her father as Teacup in any of his speeches. Jade's response and retort is hilarious. He says, "I'll stop calling him Teacup and I'll start calling Jade Spark Plug," which is funny. It really does show his social skill awkwardness, but that's what makes this character so enjoyable to watch. What I really liked about this episode is shows the unyielding power of love. I'll explain. Even though there's terror and horror at the peripheral vision of the very outskirts of this town, and how death is hanging over each one of these people as individuals, this episode illustrates the tenacity of the human spirit as they still show empathy and love towards each other, and the growing relationships between certain individuals. One of those beautifully blossoming relationships is between Kenny and Christy, as they begin to more openly express their inner feelings towards each other. Another truly engaging emotional moment was between Ellis and Fatima, where Ellis fully opened up his heart to Fatima, proposing to her with one of the greatest love lines I have ever heard in a long time. I quote, "You are the love of my life, and we could be anywhere. We can be anywhere in the world. It would not matter, because you are my home." Okay, eat your heart out, Shakespeare. Truly a heartwarming moment. After these touching moments, the show's horror elements quickly asserts itself back into the forefront. We now pick up with Boyd and Sarah when we left off with them exploring the forest and being attacked by something massive in the dark woods. But daylight doesn't ease the terrifying tension as the sunlight reveals a new type of nightmare outside the tent. When Boyd and Sarah exit the tent, they quickly realize that their situation has gone from bad to worse. This is because the surrounding areas, the trees, the landscape is covered in mysterious thick webs everywhere, a truly unsettling scene. Whereas the town resembled some sort of home life that they are familiar with, this place on the other hand, was otherworldly, with no real connection they could immediately grasp onto. It was a forest of webs. The environment gives off a hostile appearance that quickly demonstrates that reality, by what it does to Boyd. You see, Boyd starts hearing a voice of a woman calling from the forest of webs. He does not hesitate to quickly run deeper into the forest and entangle himself as he searches for the source of that voice. The more he advances and the closer he gets to the voice, he sees a figure of a woman that is cocooned in webs. As he peers through the mesh of webs and focuses more on the woman inside the cocoon, he sees that it resembles his wife, but as he calls her name, her face quickly distorts into something monstrous as she starts grabbing for his arms. It was during this whole time with Boyd in the webs, Sarah was perplexed because she didn't hear the lady's voice. Boyd hearing the voice would lead me to believe the spiders are using some sort of bait or mental hook line to drag him closer to something dangerous. This is illustrated when Boyd escapes the wife-like shaped creature. He's covered in spiders that seem to be predatorial spider-like creatures, determined to feed on Boyd's flesh as they sink their fangs into his stomach and back. After Boyd and Sarah escaped the spiders, it was clear that this situation affected Boyd badly. Boyd, normally a cool, reserved, calculated individual, was shaken up, not only because of seeing his wife in that sort of situation, but also from the toxins from the spiders' bites. As Sarah now has to be Boyd's rock and steady him to try to get him motivated to continue their journey to find a way out. But it is what Boyd said next during his despair that was truly intriguing. Boyd says there was no way out of this place, it gets your hopes up, only to crush them, and that it does this to feed on pain. He believes this place is feeding on pain. How fascinating. The scene reminds me of The Mist, with the spiders that were in that picture. They weren't really spiders, but they were spider-like, but it kind of does have that feel to it. Boyd's hypothesis doesn't seem to be unfounded when the next scene appears, the scene that shows the town getting ready to finally broadcast the signal to the outside world. As the townspeople gathers around for this momentous occasion, a storm appears in the background out of nowhere, threatening their hope and tower. It was during this scene that I think was one of the most exciting parts of this entire season, because they finally reached someone on the outside. But you know how the saying goes, be careful what you wish for. This voice that replies back on the radio was nothing like we as the audience would expect as a comforting sign of hope. No, it was more a foreboding sign of despair, as it warned Jim Matthews that his wife should stop digging in the basement. This was scary enough, but the fact is that the voice knew who Jim was, sending the creepy meter off the charts. As the show draws to a close, we see a scene of Tabitha Matthews digging in the basement, only to fall through the floor to a dark cavern underneath her house. What makes this scene even more bizarre is that Victor is down there waiting for her in the darkness, saying the boy in white told him that she would be down there with him soon, as he creepily says this is where they sleep, as he shows her a panoramic view with his flashlight of strange drawings on the cavern walls. The closing scene ends with Sarah and Boyd trying to get out of the forest during the storm before it gets dark. As the storm rages on and darkness approaches, Boyd starts to give up, and says that Sarah should go alone. When all hope seemed to be lost, it was then that the boy in white appears to Sarah, and tells her that they should escape in a faraway tree, leaving us with the closing scene of Boyd going into a faraway tree only to end up trapped in some sort of pit on the other side. I got to say, what I like about this series is every time I think this show has started to have some sort of grounded premise in reality, that we as normal bystanders can grasp onto, and try to gauge where it is going. It refuses to contain itself to a predictably defined premise, which is why From is a terrific series. So guys, tell me what you think, as the series' first season draws to an end. Please leave your comments below, and if you like this video's breakdown, and the work put into it, please help support the channel in any way that makes you feel comfortable. Thanks.